Style for Life. I'm Stephanie Rumble, fashion stylist, accountability coach, and your guide to feeling good in your body and your clothes. Based in Christchurch, New Zealand, I bring over 3 decades of experience in fashion, fitness, and wellness to help you feel strong, stylish, and self-assured. Together we'll explore the emotional, physical, and practical sides of style, because true confidence starts from within. No matter your age or size, you deserve to feel confident and show up as the best version of you. I truly believe this. This is Style for Life.
Kia ora everybody, and welcome back to the podcast today. We took a wee break last week because it was Easter week and we really wanted just to give everyone a bit of a chance to decompress. But here we are again, and I'm very grateful to have lovely Sheena in the studio with me today.
Hi, Steph.
Hi, Sheena. So thank you so much for coming along today. And I think the best introduction of you is the introduction that you could make. Can you just tell us a bit about who you are and what you do? A little bit about your background.
Okie dokie. So my name is Sheena Hemens and I am a British woman. I have been in New Zealand for 30 years, but my parents are from Sri Lanka, so I have that kind of interesting background, shall we say. I would not call myself Sri Lankan because I have only been there once on a holiday when I was a child, but obviously it kind of feeds into who I am. I'm also a mother. I've had 3 children, and we all moved to New Zealand 30 years ago this year.
Oh.
And while I've been here, I was a mother for the first kind of 12 years. I was a stay-at-home mum, and was married and had that normal kind of married life with 2.2 kids and the Range Rover and the Black Labrador, living in the country in a hoka. And then that sort of unraveled really quite unspectacularly, shall I say. We just kind of fizzled out. And that's kind of when the story of me begins, I think, when I started to find myself, set up 2 businesses. And even though I was a single mother at that time in shared care with my ex-husband, that I had all of those juggles that women have when you're raising children and working and running a household and trying to have a life. I know what that is like. And then life changed quite dramatically in 2023. And so for me, I feel like I've been rebuilding again. So it's, I've had a couple of periods in my life where I would say that I've been restarting, rebuilding, finding out who I am again, and then just looking to the future. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So we have known each other for a while, Sheena, long time, and just about maybe a month ago, maybe 6 weeks, we both spoke at Inspire Woman event, actually.
That's correct.
Yes, Thrive Woman event, actually, just get it right, run by the lovely Karen Annan. So we were very privileged to speak at that, and you shared your story there, and I really appreciated your candid sharing, and so it's one of the reasons we've got you on the show today. And I also really found it really interesting hearing a little bit about the fact that you lived in Britain for a while. So, thank you for your introduction. Just tell us a little bit about that before you came to New Zealand and obviously married and had children. You were in Britain, as a family that had, had Sri Lankan heritage. How was that for you?
So I was born in London. My parents moved over from Sri Lanka in 1956, I believe. And, the world was a very different place back then. And I think that would have been quite a hard and brave move to make. And I'm sure that they had their challenges in terms of dealing with racism and not, being able to kind of find their feet in the UK. As a result of that, when we came along, my brother and myself, they decided to really not teach us anything about our Sri Lankan backgrounds, our heritage.
Mm.
They chose, for our own good, with love, I'm sure, to make sure that we were as English as possible. And so my mother was an elocution teacher, so we all spoke really well. And, we ate the same food as everybody else, chicken nuggets and roast chicken and all that kind of stuff, and wore the same clothes and went to school and just were, to all intents and purposes, as English as they come, except that I have a all year round tan that doesn't go away, which I can't hide. So, yeah. So, I mean, I did get bullied, and I did have quite a tough upbringing, I think, in terms of not being able to find belonging and a sense of kind of community. It was a much harder thing to do when you're very different to everybody else, which is the situation that I was in. And then, I got married, and I got married to an army officer, and who was, dare I say, very white, middle, upper class, and everyone else that he knew was too. And so, yeah, my life kind of carried along that trajectory where I felt like I was accepted and I was part of that society. And then when we moved to New Zealand, people would hear my accent and go, "Oh, you're English." So I'm sure that wasn't the first thought they had when they saw me, but the moment I spoke, they would then associate me with being British or English. So, yeah, that's, my kind of upbringing and my life in terms of what my experience was of being pretty much always the only brown person in the room. Everywhere I go, that is the situation. And I'm used to it. But, it would be nice to have a little bit more, a wider spread of people in Christchurch.
Yes. Yes, and what makes so much sense is your mother was an elocution teacher. You've got you speak so well, and that all really makes sense. You've just got a beautiful accent, and your voice is beautiful. And I've always thought that. So that was great. Thank you for sharing that. So when we engaged a few years ago when you had a business, tell us a little bit about those businesses and what happened, and then kind of maybe the progress to 2023 and what happened there.
So, so as I say, I didn't work when I first arrived in New Zealand. I was a stay-at-home mum. But then when my marriage ended, I, like most women, had to think about going out to work. And the first job I got was in a investment bank, and I was there for 4 years. I was their corporate services manager and just organised loads and loads of different things. And I met a woman, I won't mention any names, but I met a woman who is a very well-known, I guess, and wealthy businesswoman in Christchurch. And she believed in me, and she really encouraged me to go out on my own. And I did. And she was my first client. And I think I will always be grateful to her. Women supporting women is such an important thing. If she hadn't pushed me and encouraged me, I'm not sure that I would have made that leap at that time. And so I started my PR and marketing business in 2010. And obviously in February 2011, the whole of Christchurch imploded with the earthquake. And I will be honest and say that I was caught in this terrible kind of like grief and disappointment and loss that we all were at the time. Anyone who was living here, just feeling terribly sad about the place that we had lost that was home. But I realized that I had an opportunity, I had a choice, and I could either try and run away to somewhere else like lots of people did and start a new life, or I could stay here and try to help or be a part of rebuilding what would come. And so I did that, and my marketing business ended up being very involved with the rebuild. I did a lot of work for the council. I ran a lot of kind of the rebuild expos where people could come and get their insurance issues sorted out and heard, or banking or whatever. And I also worked with small companies, helping them with their marketing as their businesses kind of grew in the art building companies and those kind of, concrete companies, because their businesses were growing very fast as a result, and they didn't really know how to kind of keep that together and make it work. So I did a lot of work in that area and ended up working actually at Sarah as a marketing advisor, and worked on a lot of the anchor projects, which have only now come to pass.
Oh,
So
those are just literally
Just-
still coming.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, that was a real privilege to be a part of that and to be working in an office with like-minded people who truly wanted to see Christchurch back on its feet. And, we were all working really hard to get there. But then I met somebody who was a young Frenchman who I ended up in a relationship with. And to cut a very long story short, we had this idea to start a French restaurant. And so, I left everything that I was doing behind and launched into setting up from scratch a French restaurant called Maison de Crêpe. And I did everything from designing the brand to writing all the recipes and training all the staff and doing the fit outs, designing the interiors, just everything. And it was exciting and crazy, but it took everything not from me, everything I had to give was taken basically by the business. So I actually sold my home and used that to fund the restaurant, and I wouldn't recommend doing that, I have to say.
Yeah.
Not my wisest decision in hindsight. But at the time I did take advice, and the advice was, well, use the equity in your home rather than borrow. But I think losing your home is not for everybody. I think you've got to be quite a certain type of person. And and then we launched the restaurant, put all the money into it. We then got bigger because it was successful. And then we started to put together the bones of a franchise organization. So I always had the intention to franchise it, always had the intention to grow it and not be just one restaurant, but to be a business. And so we put everything in place in terms of systems and operations and training to be able to do a franchise. And in 2020, March 2020, we were talking to a couple of different people about a franchise, and we had two of them who had got contracts and signed, and to open one in Rangiora and one in Rolleston, I believe, and then we went into lockdown and COVID-19 was here. So that was fun.
Yeah.
That was hard.
That was hard. And then COVID, we got through COVID, and did Maison de Crêpe make COVID?
Well, that was the thing, is it went on and on and on. And for hospitality, it was extremely difficult. And when you've got large rents that you're supposed to be paying and you really don't have many people eating out, it took a long time for people to accept that it was safe to go out. And a lot of our clientele were older people, and they did not feel like they wanted to come out and eat. And so there was a whole business of the vaccinations, and that you couldn't have someone who wasn't vaccinated, and you couldn't have people working for you. So there was just so much to navigate. And the coffers were empty. We just opened the one in Maryvale and spent every single cent that we had. So actually, when there was another lockdown, there was nothing that we could do, and it was very frustrating. So yes, the business did not survive. I had to close it in April of 2023, and that was not good. I was grieving for that, and I thought that was the worst thing that was going to happen that year, but it wasn't.
So then what happened?
So On the 9th of June, I was at a business meeting and I got a phone call. Well, actually, I had my phone off. And then when I came out of the meeting, I saw I had missed many, many, many messages. And I rang my ex-husband, who was one of them. And he told me that our daughter had been hit by a car and that she had passed away up in Auckland.
So sorry.
And yeah, that phone call was one that I relived a million times in the sort of first few months after it happened. And I'm sure anybody who's been through something like this, when it's so sudden and it becomes a trauma, that, you know, you cannot help but ruminate and almost relive it. It's yeah, the human brain is quite cruel in that way. So yeah, we had to go up to Auckland and bring her home, and yeah, start the process of trying to live life without her. And Lauren, that's her name, Lauren Hemens, and she was a beautiful girl. She was a fashion graduate. She was a designer and a makeup artist, and she was working up in Auckland pursuing her dreams. And yeah, really bright, lovely, talented girl, had fallen in love and was with a partner planning the future. It just seemed terribly, and it still feels terribly, terribly unfair. But I have learnt a lot in the process of all of that happening. And I think now, almost 3 years later, having been to hell and back, I can look back and say that I understand why things happened, why I reacted the way I did. I don't mean Lauren, but have you heard of secondary losses?
Yes, I have. But tell our audience about secondary losses.
So secondary losses, so when somebody passes away, whether they're a child or a parent or a sibling, you know, that is the primary loss. But there are always secondary losses, and they're different for everybody. Unfortunately, for me, I had a few forced kind of secondary losses that were, for example, I was in a relationship at the time when the accident happened, and it became very clear within a couple of weeks that he was unable to and unwilling to support me through my grief. He just shut down and had no emotional capacity to be there for me. And as hard as that was, I had to make a decision. And you know, they do say don't make any big decisions when you have had a massive life trauma like that. But sometimes you have to, and sometimes you've got no choice. So I had to make the choice to pack a couple of bags and leave, because I was living in his home. I had to leave and go somewhere, and I actually didn't know where to go. I kind of felt homeless for a while, but obviously I have really good friends, and I went and stayed with some friends and then found a place with a lovely woman who took care of me for 3 months. And I'd still to this day call her my fairy godmother. She brought me tissues and cups of tea, and we went for walks on the beach, and she saved my life, really. If I hadn't had her to go to, it would have been very difficult. But so yeah, I lost my relationship, I lost my home, and then I went with my dog Alfie to stay with her, but he got sick and I had to put him down a couple of months after Lauren died. So, you know, it was, yeah. And I was also still fielding calls from different debt collectors and banks, because when the business went under, I ended up having to pay the debt. So it was not a fun time. And so all of those kind of secondary losses, I think, make it much harder for you to grieve and to be strong enough, because you've literally got all your energies being pulled in so many different directions. I was trying to find somewhere to live. I was trying to manage my money. I was trying to work out how I was going to survive. I was trying to unpack and understand the relationship and what had happened and why on earth I'd been with him in the first place and why this could have happened. And yeah, so there was a lot going on. And, you know, I know that you've had some grief in your life as well, Steph, but, you know, they don't tell you how tiring it is.
And how long it takes too. It's not something that you can get over in minutes or days or months. It's a process that lives with you. You've got to learn to live with it and find a way through. How did you in those first 3 to 6 months? I mean, you had your lovely friend. I remember meeting up with you at that time, and you were living with her near the beach. And you know, what did you do to put one foot in front of the other each day in those first few months?
Well, firstly, I didn't always put one foot in front of the other. There were days I stayed in bed. There were days I did the whole Netflix and chill just to distract myself from how I was feeling. I think when you are feeling like that, when you have experienced something that is traumatic and, you know, is full of grief, you have to feel it.
Yeah, I agree.
You cannot distract yourself all the time.
Agreed. Mm-hmm.
And some distraction is good, but really, you know, you have to feel it. You have to try to accept it. That takes a long time. Like it actually, you know, most mornings for the first 3-4 months, I would wake up and almost go through that grief again as I remembered what had happened.
I totally relate to that. Yeah.
You know, you wake up and you suddenly realize, oh my God, that's true. It wasn't me imagining it or having a bad dream. This is real. So I just had to feel it. I had to give in. I had to be kind to myself, which I wasn't always good at. I'm, you know, quite a driven person. I've always been quite busy. I've always done things for everyone else. I've always been the person people turn to when they need help or need someone to talk to. And this time I had nothing to give anybody. So the biggest thing I think that I learnt in that period was to ask for help, to reach out and ask, to accept it when it was given, to not feel like I had to do everything. You know, people would say, oh, you're so strong. They still do say that. But being strong actually is not a medal of honor. It is not what we're meant to do. We're not meant to be strong 24/7, coping only on our own. That is not healthy.
100%.
So I learned to accept that for me, being strong was actually asking for help. Being vulnerable is strength. And I had to accept all the wonderful help that came my way. I felt so grateful to have so many wonderful friends and family, both here and in the UK, who saved me with their love, really. That sounds so corny.
No, I hear you. And in the process of this, you're not only dealing with your own grief, because I don't think we've mentioned that Lauren was an identical twin.
She was, yeah. So yes, she had an identical twin sister and a younger brother. And so I was trying... Well, I'm a mother, first and foremost. And being a mother when everything is going brilliantly is still hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's still hard.
Yes.
But being a mother when you have been ravaged by grief and trauma and you're exhausted because grief is exhausting, being a mother is hard. You cannot always be there in the way that you want. You don't always have the capacity. But my poor daughter was going through a lot of emotions and feelings. And there was, you know, it was complicated.
Of course.
My son is a lovely, gentle, very sensitive young man. And, you know, that was hard. And he worries about me. He's... There is a 6.5-year age gap between the twins and my son. So for many years, it was often him and me. So he has been my little kind of man, especially because I was single for a long time. He was my little right-hand man, and he was always very protective over me and he's a very caring person. So he was worrying about me and I was worrying about him. And, it was just, I mean, it's really hard. We got through. And I think if you want to look for silver linings, Stephanie, you will find them everywhere in every situation, even something like this, or, there are always there always are silver linings. And I believe that my relationship with my children, particularly my daughter, is much stronger and deeper and more connected than it was before. And I feel that that is a gift that Lauren has given us. And I'm very grateful for that. At one time I did feel like our family had been broken.
Of course.
Because even though my ex-husband and I have been separated for 20 years, we've all been very close. We didn't have any animosity or hatred or anything like that going on. So no, we've had a very good relationship. But suddenly when this happened, it felt, the dynamic of your family changes because one of them isn't there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And it's like everyone has to relearn how to be with each other as a group, as a family. The dynamic is different. And Lauren was the one who was much more like me. She was very chatty and outgoing and friendly and funny and kind of had a really, really amazing energy about her. And so losing that in a family dynamic when her sister and her brother were much more introverted has really changed the way we all interact with one another, because we don't have Lauren as the buffer who is being funny and silly and telling jokes and, funny stories, which is, bless her, that's what she did. And so, it really does. I mean, and then you grieve that. That's another secondary loss where you grieve the family that you had, and you have to almost find a new family dynamic to take you forward.
Have you ever wondered how you can be a fashion stylist with access to premium digital styling products? Do you want to be trained by the best in the industry and access these products that reflect fashion styling in 2025? If you do, then Image Innovators is absolutely the choice for you. This is because they have a network of over 1,000 trained fashion stylists worldwide, and when you work with them, you're getting the best of the best. They have evidence-based professional training offered by highly skilled facilitators that help you reach your absolute potential. This is a great alignment with Style for Life, as I in my business have used and endorsed their products for over 10 years with so many happy clients. And I'm really excited to say I'm also offering training to fashion stylists in conjunction with Image Innovators. So if you're ready to start your fashion styling training journey, then use the code BRIGHTRED25 for 10% off all products.
And I think you're right. It does draw you closer together. I noticed this. I mean, I lost my father, which is not like losing a child, but the parallel was obviously family loss. And, one of the things that my siblings and I are much closer as a result of that. Like, we work together to support my mum, who's not well. So, it's a very different, the dynamic shifted quite greatly. And we had some hard conversations in that time, which possibly wouldn't have happened had my father still been around. So, I totally relate to what you're saying. And I think in the end, we are much closer. So, have you experienced that as well with your children? You're all a bit of a closer unit.
Definitely. We are closer. And my son is in Dunedin, so he's not here, but my daughter is here in Christchurch. And my granddaughter, who is a wee button, she's 5. Yeah. And we do see each other a lot. And I think we've all leaned on each other, even if we're not conscious of it. We've leaned on each other over the last 3 years. And I think that, people are what life is all about.
100%.
And I really, relate to the fact that, yes, when you have something horrible happen, when you have life comes, as I've said in my speeches, it felt like the universe had given my life an enema. It was like everything just disappeared. And you have to look for the positive things. You have to look, and you can find them. But our brains are kind of trained to look for negative.
Oh, negativity bias, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I believe the way that I chose to move forward, once the initial, like, the really hard grieving months immediately, and the shock and all, you can't do anything. You can't make any decisions about how you want to be. You are literally just trying to be. But once I got to a stage where I could, I definitely made choices and about being positive, about looking for the silver linings, about making sure that I didn't go down rabbit holes with trains of thought that were hurting me, that were not positive things that didn't make me feel good. I would try and nip those in the bud. And I think that's my personality type. This really a wallower.
I think too, the other thing that you mentioned to me as well is that you said that that sort of getting dressed and putting on nice clothes and all of that helped you a little bit. And obviously that's a there's a connection between what I do and that. Tell us a little bit about that, because you've always looked gorgeous, and even in the pits of your grief when I met you looked gorgeous. So,
well, part of that for me, Steph, was that I really needed my outer shell, my outer persona, to make me feel better when I went out into the world. So believe me, there were many, many days, weeks probably, where I, didn't have a shower, didn't look good, didn't bother with makeup, couldn't get out of my pajamas. Those days when I could not put one foot in front of the other, I wasn't worrying about what I looked like. But at a certain point, I started to go, I don't really want to look the way that I feel, because if I look the way I feel, it will actually make me feel worse. Like being presented with yourself in a mirror or in a reflection in a window. So I would go out, but I would make sure that I looked like the best version of myself, because I found that helped me to feel better. And it, I don't know whether, they say chicken or egg, which is it? Did I feel better? And that's why I dressed in a certain way. No, I think it was the other way around. I think I was feeling, flat, but I put my face on, I put on some red lipstick, and I went out in an outfit that I knew made me feel good.
Yeah, great.
And as a result, I felt better, and I felt more prepared to deal with meeting people. I felt like I had a suit of armor on that meant I was safe and strong, and I could deal with people looking at me and saying, if I wandered around Merivale, people were looking at me. They knew who I was. They knew what had happened. They'd seen it in the paper. They knew me from the restaurant. And so I knew people were talking about me. It wasn't me being paranoid, but I felt I could cope with it because I looked strong.
Yeah.
And I think that it has a huge impact on how I felt. I highly recommend. I mean, I know that not everybody's into makeup and, flashy clothes, but it's really about wearing something that makes you look good. Or, look good, feel good.
Yes.
Feel good in what you're wearing and in your skin. And if that means putting on a little bit of lipstick or wearing dark glasses that are really make you look good, and a nice coat over your pajamas, if that's what it takes,
Yes.
so that you can present to the world without feeling you have to put your head down and be embarrassed or be trying to avoid their attentions. I found it gave me confidence, and that I don't think that's a coincidence, because I truly believe that the way that we present ourselves to the world has a huge impact on our inner confidence. The other thing about clothes, which I think has changed since all of this has happened, and
Yes.
particularly Lauren, I've decided that I am not going to save my clothes for best.
I love this, Sheena. This is
I am not going to keep everything that I wear in the wardrobe going, well, I'll save it for a rainy day or for a day when I have something special or something, because let's face it, I could be dead tomorrow. So I am going to wear the things that I love, and I'm going to wear the nice antique earrings that I found, and I'm going to wear the bright colors and wear the nice shoes, because what am I waiting for?
Yes.
And I, you know,
I
don't keep things for best, because we don't know what's going to happen. And I guess that's my whole attitude to life now, is that life is short. And I want to make the most of it. And also Lauren, she was a complete amazing fashion person. And she always wore what she wanted to wear. She always wore what she felt like, what made her feel good. And quite often she was overdressed by New Zealand standards, but she didn't care.
And I love that. And I think your message is so aligned with how I would give people a message around clothes too. Don't save it for the wedding or for whatever event you think might be coming. You know, wear the clothes, get out there. If you're having coffee with a friend, dress up, honor the occasion. And I can see that in this whole process, what you were doing is you were honoring yourself.
That's right.
Yeah. So you were honoring who you actually are, even in the depths of grief. You knew that if you got up and made a little bit of an effort, you were going to feel better. And it's such a profound message. I really appreciate you sharing that. And now, 2026, where is Sheena at right now? And what's the future looking like for you?
Well, the future is a work in progress, but I am... So I've got two kind of clients that I'm working with on a couple of different projects. I work with a company called Total Sports Tours, and I am there. My title is Strategic Development Manager or something.
No.
So yeah, they basically deal with tours for school age children, rugby, netball, hockey, but they're very much involved with that mentoring side about getting the most out of kids, teaching them to be the best version of themselves, regardless of whether they win or lose. And those are all values and things that I really am very passionate about. So I write for them, and I do a lot of kind of fine collaborations and that kind of thing. And we were in the process of organizing an exchange between India and New Zealand, and we were bringing over a rugby girls team over from Calcutta, and they were going to play and stay with a girls team from Christchurch. But obviously, with the state of the world at the moment, we've just put it on hold, and all the work is done. We've set up a charity for it, and I was doing a lot of marketing for it. But yes, unfortunately, what's happening does not make it that safe for kids to travel and to the other side of the world. So we're not doing that. But I'm still busy, because I've also I'm setting up a business called Ultimate Stays, which is a short-term rental holiday property management company. And they've been going for 10 years in Queenstown and in Picton. And they have launched in Christchurch, and I am the Christchurch business manager, and I'm setting it up and preparing everything. And we are looking for properties that people want to rent out for holiday accommodation, so they can still use it themselves. Maybe place in the city, maybe out by the beach. We can do everything. We offer full service property management, and our business model is really different to other companies. So we're looking forward to being able to make people lots of money for their properties. But the other side of my journey into 2026 and beyond is doing things like this, Steph, where I get to talk about grief, about overcoming adversity, about resilience, whether it's on podcasts or through speaking. I'm also writing a memoir about my story, which I hope will resonate with people. And as we said at the beginning, off camera, was that, I had an article in the Metropole magazine last week, and the feedback has been overwhelming. The only reason that I am doing this and being so open about what has happened is so that it can help other people. And
amazing.
Having the feedback from people who have lost children or who have lost loved ones, and saying that they feel heard and they feel seen and they feel that it resonates with them and they really find it inspirational, that means the world to me, because it means that Lauren didn't die for no reason. something good is coming out of it.
It's so generous of you, and obviously as some people never get to the place of being able to do what you're doing, and I really appreciate the work you've done to get to this place, because it is work, and it's, there's commitment to being in a place where you can share your story and help others. And I can see that. I could see that in the article. I saw that when I heard you speak a few weeks ago, and I'm so grateful to you for coming on the podcast today, because I'm sure there'll be somebody who, if they haven't experienced the same thing themselves, they will know someone who has. And you've picked yourself up so many times in your life, and from the ultimately worst thing that any of us could experience is losing a child. I know that's the worst. I feel like it's the worst. So
it's unnatural. We're not meant to bury our children. It just doesn't compute. And I think that's why it's so hard for our brains and our bodies to fully accept it when we lose a child, because I think we're still looking for them. They're still within us. They're still, especially a mother, it is really difficult to move forward in your life without a child that you've birthed. And whether that is a child that, was a miscarriage, or a child that was stillborn, I think every mother feels like that child is still with them, and I don't think that ever changes. So
right.
It is difficult, but I think that not everyone would want to tell their story, and I totally understand that. I don't think that we're obligated.
No, I agree.
To do it. I have just felt called to do it, to be honest, but also I have the ability to be able to communicate and to speak and to write about my experience in a way that I think can help others. And so I see it as a responsibility because I have that. I think if that is not part of your skill set, there is absolutely no need
100%.
to put yourself through the trauma of public speaking, which everybody hates, to tell your story. You don't have to. But I feel like I can do it, and so therefore I need to. And it really is as simple as that.
Thank you, Sheena. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much for your heartfelt sharing, your generosity, your exuberant, vibrant personality, and your energy, because it's really appreciated. And ultimately, thank you for sharing your journey as well, and your family's journey. I think it's profound. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you or connect with you, how would they do that?
Well, I am in the process of setting up a website, but I've got so busy, I just haven't got around to doing it. But it's sheenahemens.co.nz. But I'm also just sheenahemens@gmail.com is my email, and you can pretty much Google that and find that pretty much anywhere. So those are the best ways to contact me, or through Ultimate Stays, you can Google them and my number will come up for Christchurch.
And you're on LinkedIn as well, aren't you?
And I'm on LinkedIn, yes.
And the socials. So look, I just want to thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for sharing your story again. And if you've heard how you can contact Sheena or get in touch with her if you want to reach out. And we will look forward to seeing your memoir at some point.
Yes, well, make some time to keep writing it. But thank you so much for having me on, for asking me into, I love what you do. And you have so much good energy as well. I think it's really important to be public with your energy. I think if you can.
I agree.
Makes everybody feel better.
Yes, I hope so. And that's thank you so much. So thank you everyone for listening. If you do want to find out more about this, you can find us on me on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Facebook. Kia ora, everybody, and thank you so much for listening. And thank you so much again, Sheena.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Style for Life podcast. Don't forget, you deserve to feel fabulous at every age, every stage, and at every size. If you're loving the show, hit subscribe and leave a review. It helps more amazing people like you find their way back to life through style. Thanks again. Until next time.